What's the net worth of your life? And what does that have to do with leading a meaningful life? Oh, you're not going to want to miss today because I personally am not sure about the answers to this, but my guest, she knows. Tune in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of a Meaningful Life podcast. And I'm Carmen Davailus. I am your host. And I'm excited today because I have Susan Meredith here today. Hi, Susan.
Hello.
Hi, and Susan is so Susan's title is so interesting. It's that she teaches life skills through physics and finance. So, my first question, you know what it's going to be, is like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's very, I was looking for how to encapsulate very quickly what I do. And I'm an engineer and I studied the laws of nature and physics, in school. And I think most people will recognize that we use the same words for people in organizations like stress and momentum and pressure and all those kinds of terms. And exponential growth is in finance and so on and so forth. And so I really relate the laws that I learned in my engineering degree to people in organizations and in so teaching life skills through physics and finance.
Yeah. That's really perfect. And to be honest, I'd never really thought about that, the relationship and the terms. And yet
Yeah,
we hear them all the time,
that's
right?
right.
And so I took a physics class and I really struggled. And I don't know why, but and then when it clicked. And
Well, people say that they don't understand math and science. And I would assert that of course you do, because you live on this planet. And my assistant is here wanting to have
I see
attention.
that.
Sorry.
Okay. Now, what's your assistant's name?
Poe, Poe, Poe. So
Oh,
sometimes he's well behaved and sometimes he's
okay.
like, hey, you're talking and I want to be part of this. So sorry.
Welcome, Poe. Well, I have four assistants laying around at my feet, so you might hear snoring or something, but
Yeah,
otherwise.
yeah. But to finish that
Yeah.
thought, like you know how you learn a language and you can speak a language before you can ever read or write it.
Hmm.
And the same thing is true for math and science. It is the language of the physical world. It's just a way to read and write the laws of nature. And so you use them every day. So you know what stress is, right? You know
Yeah.
what pressure is, you know what momentum is, inertia, et cetera, et cetera. Even though you may not understand the formulas in math and science, you know it. So
Right.
that's the really my job is to help people know what they already know through explaining it in a way that makes it simple and understandable.
Yeah. It was so true. It's like talking about connecting with nature. I'm like, yeah, but you are nature.
True.
You can't help but connect. Yes.
I had a PhD physicist at some point say to me, "Well, I'm a purist. You can't apply the laws of nature to people." And for a while, I thought, "Oh well, he must be right because he's a PhD physicist." And then I thought, how arrogant to think the laws of nature apply to everything but us
But
on
us,
this
yeah,
planet. Of course, they
right,
apply to us. It's just that we have choice in how to use them sometimes, and
right.
whether to be resilient or tough or you know uh, fixed and rigid or et cetera, et cetera. So we do
Yeah.
have some choice around how we apply the laws of nature, but they still are operating for us too.
Yeah. And what a key thing that is to understand. I mean, I'm sure when I took my college class and I'm lost in physics, right? I didn't have a clue of where I was in relation to the, it was like there's physics and then there's me, instead of realizing that I was a part of it and it's a part of my life. And once you start realizing that, you really can follow the flow better. You're part of
That's
it.
that's exactly right. If you understand the laws of physics and metaphysics, you can use them in a way, and you're not fighting against them, you're working with them. So that is the whole point of teaching life skills through physics and finance, is because understanding, like, as I say, education is the best leverage there is. It's the best asset there is, because that you can't lose it. You can only add to it.
Hmm.
And that's how you really get rid of some of the stress and the frustrations, and do better in life.
So, when did you first get an inkling of thinking along these terms. I'm not going to say you're abnormal. I don't mean that, but it's not typical, right? Like not typical conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
I suppose.
yeah, I
Well, it was
mean,
very clear. It was a very definite instant in time. I
okay.
was an engineer at the University of Illinois, and the engineering campus is north of Green Street. And I was with another woman in engineering. My first college engineering class, I was the only woman, and I went to an all-girls high school, so it was quite a culture shock. But there
Wow.
was another woman in engineering, and we were waiting to cross Green Street, and we were talking about our class that was called Strength of Materials, which was about stress and strain and pressure and fatigue, et cetera. And we said, just at that time, I said, isn't that interesting? If we were on the other side of campus, people would have thought we were talking about psychology or medicine, but we're crossing Green Street, so we're talking about physics. And that's when I first thought about it and went, oh, that's interesting. And then when I started into the, work world, I was like, you use these terms all the time. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so do you think that's impacted your life in some way that you live
Oh,
differently because of that?
Oh, yeah. It has really helped me understand things, that the sum of the forces, the way things sometimes pull against each other, working through something, as I say, that what I studied first in detail, I'm an expert on stress, on having it first, and then learning what to do about it, because that made me really dig into understanding stress in the physical world, which helps me deal with stress in my physical world, my
Mhm.
my world of health and so on. So it really, I use it all the time when I'm looking at something in a negative way. As I say, turn around, and I think of it in very physical terms as like, I'm focused negatively, what's the opposite, and turn around. So those
Ah,
kinds of things I use all the time.
so turn around. That's good. Look at another side.
Look at the exact opposite,
Exact
right?
opposite. Not just another side, but the exact opposite.
Usually it's just the exact opposite. Oh, it's going to be awful. It's going to be the exact opposite was it's going to be great. It's going to go
Uh-huh.
really well. And if you think about it that way, it's like, why would you walk towards your future backwards, looking
Uh-huh.
at the negative stuff? If you say, well, this is what I want, so I'm going to look forward to a good future and move towards that, that makes sense. And it's much less stressful and it's much more successful. So just very subtle things around the physics can help me understand what, the feelings I'm having and the results I'm getting, everything like that.
I think we as humans tend to think that our solutions are complicated. And so simple as turn around and look at the other side. Well, that's not always so easy when you're enmeshed in the stresses of whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that it's a simple solution to take that first step.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you can, when somebody else is stuck in negative mindsets, you can just say, well, what's the opposite? Well,
Hmm.
what do you want versus what you don't want?
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Something I really hadn't thought about. It was like there, but I hadn't really thought about it per se.
It's funny because I keep thinking that somebody else is going to talk about this. It has been since I was in college that I've been looking at
Mm.
this stuff. And finally, it's like, it's probably time to get this out there. So I have, I teach classes and and I have been, but
Yeah.
there's been other projects, that I've worked on. As I say, I have a financial education game company and that takes up a lot of time. But now I'm at the point where I can start doing the keynote speaking on Mother Nature's laws, as well as the financial education, and really look at how to get this out there. Because I
Hmm.
think it could really help right now with some of the struggles we're having with the polarization and so on. If we look at it differently, it can really probably alleviate a lot of conflict that we've got going on. Polarization is one I'm studying right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, perfect timing, Susan. I mean, of all times, the whole topic that you bring about with physics and life I wanted to say
Life
life
skills.
skills. Yeah. That alone, I thought that's interesting. Let's have her as a guest. Perfect. But then when you talked about your title being what's the net worth of your life? I'm like, okay, okay. So tell us a little bit about that. What's the net worth of
Well,
your life? Because I think that leads into a lot of what you do, right?
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it really is. Again, the physical and the metaphysical, the physics and the both psychology and physics, and religion for that matter. I don't see that there's any conflict by all these things. They're all made, of our universe, parts of our universe. But when you say, like when I ask people, so I have a financial education game that and workshops that are just, amazing. Game-based learning is a fast way of learning, and it allows you to feel the experience rather than just kind of this left brain informational kind of learning. So,
Hmm.
but when we talk about money, part of what is really important is that money is man-made. Money is a tool. It is not some magical thing. It's a unit of exchange of energy. We
Right.
exchange, and so it is, you could live your whole life without ever using money. There's villages someplace that I'm sure do, but when I ask people what, their goal is around money, there's virtually never there's one person I've ever had that had a financial number goal. Everybody says it's quality of life, it's, having the freedom to do things, it's, those kinds of answers. And so when you think about that, it really is about the net worth of your life.
Uh-huh.
And that's part of the monetary parts, but it's also, if you just looked at it from a monetary standpoint, you would just sit there and hoard all your money and not, do anything with it. What we really want to do is have experiences, and those are assets. Our
Right.
knowledge, education, experiences, relationships, all those things are assets that
So,
give value to our life.
yeah. So to follow that train, then, so if you say, well, what's the net worth? And someone has a number. If you keep investigating that, that number supports their values in some way and what they'd like to see in their lives, right? So the surface answer might be a number only as a means of getting
Well,
to,
this particular person had a goal to make $1 million by the time he was 29. It was actually a
oh,
boyfriend of mine in college. So he had a very specific goal, and I'm sure he did it,
uh-huh.
went our separate ways when we went off to college. But yeah, that was what I mean by a very definite monetary goal.
Ah,
But you're right, there was a value to it that, it meant something to him besides just the money.
sure. Sure. And 29, relatively speaking, is fairly young as an adult, and
Yeah.
you learn things as time goes on. And so,
Yeah.
I'm especially interested in a game to learn because, I talk a lot about creativity as part of a meaningful life.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
really important aspect to creativity is play. Like the tools you're talking about, you can't help but learn as you play because
Mhm.
that's what happens with games, right? You're learning strategies. Tic-tac-toe, you have a strategy, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Exactly. And this is a way to test out strategies where it doesn't cost you. So
Hmm.
there's lots of education out there. And as I say, some of it is boring or piecemeal, or it's a sales tool, for financial institutions to get you to use their products, but we have a game that is comprehensive where it's like make all your decisions this round, like in real life, and see the results, and then make all the decisions in the next round and deal with emergencies and deal with, so you're really experiencing what you experience in real life. And then you can try different strategies and see different results and learn pieces. It builds on the knowledge builds in each scenario, and the scenarios are fairly short. And then the discussions and the curriculum, when your mind is now open to go, oh, I'd like to learn more about that, instead of trying to force information into people's
Right,
brains,
right.
it really makes it fun to learn and easy to learn. And like I say, it's risk free. So it's games. It's we all learn by doing.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of the basic premise is, do something and learn from that and then make the distinctions.
I think there's a lot of fear around finances and money and so many preconceived notions and all the ways we've been programmed and programmed ourselves and how we're thinking about money is. a tool and as energy and so on and so forth. And I've continually evolved in how I look at that, just what I've learned and read about and listened to as an
Mhm.
adult.
Well, one of the challenges is there's like a right answer to money. And I
Mhm.
think COVID really showed that for people, where people, that may have had things set up, where their life was kind of set up for them and then it was totally disrupted. So there are situational right answers, you might say,
Mhm.
but not like overall you learn this and now you apply it and you're done. It really is very changing depending on the situations, the circumstances. So it's learning the principles in a deep enough level that you can say, well, in this situation, which do I want to do, and you can try different things. We aren't there yet, but what I want to do is have the historical data from the financial, like the stock market boom and bust and the housing boom and bust. And when you play a game after you play it, you find out which you were in, because the decisions you make in one is going to be right, but in the other, it might be wrong, So
Oh,
you
yeah.
really get the distinctions from playing in different situations.
Hmm. Yeah, I hear what you're saying about when things happen, health problems, or a big
Yeah,
one, it can be crushing, and then you're like left to it certainly will make you think about your values, right?
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it really, I think the important thing for people to get is it is not, your bank account is not your value.
Hmm.
Your bank account is part of your value. I mean, you can include it as part of your value, but it is not your whole value. A big example I give all the time is, so I've been in, I was in the top 5% of women wage earners at IBM. I've been high and I've been low. When you invest in a financial education game company, your bank account doesn't look as good as
Yeah,
when you,
I would say
you
that's
know,
risky, Susan. That's very risky. Yes.
yes, of course
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
but
Kudos to
but
you.
it's the as I say, the goal in life is not earn as much as you can, it's learn as much as you can. And
Hmm.
that's the assets of knowledge and experience and whatever. At the end of my life, I want to be able to say I really did a lot, and I learned a lot and enjoyed it, and you
Yeah.
know not look how much money I have in my bank account. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody really, and some people like playing the game of money more than others. Not everybody wants to be a millionaire or a billionaire,
Hmm.
but that's why we teach financial resilience, not literacy, resilience. It's
Hmm.
not just about having information. It's about having the ability to use it in a way that you can bounce back when things happen.
Yeah, resilience is so key. I mean, you mentioned it. COVID taught us that too, right?
That's right.
Hmm.
That's right.
I had
Yeah.
things pretty well in line. I thought I'm doing pretty good, right? Second career, it was all learning everything new, and I'm like, okay, I could catch my breath a little bit. And I thought, okay, I'm on the right track, and then everything changed. My
That's
my
right.
track was gone, and it's like,
That's right.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And you can play a game and the emotions will come up. Like that's one of the things that is unique about what we do, game-based learning. You have the emotion like in real life, but you can look at it and deal with it in a way that isn't so, intense.
hmm,
And you don't want to shy away from it. And so like if you do badly in a scenario of the game, all that means is you did badly in a scenario of a game. It doesn't mean something about how
yeah,
smart you are, or how, you know what I mean, how
right,
valuable you are and all those kinds of things. So
hmm,
having it away from you in a way can help you recognize that that's not you any more than your own financial stuff in real life. It's not you. It is, you're playing the game, and this is the results you're getting. And if you play the game differently with more information and more,
hmm,
you'll have different results. But it's a choice. Like you say, it's risky to invest in a financial education game company. It is.
hmm.
But I have carried this with me for so long, like I need to do something with this. I need to do something with this. And finally I went, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it. So
Yeah.
that's when I decided, okay, it's time to do this.
Yeah, I totally get that. We're about the same age. And I don't know about you. I have what I call my 70-year project. And I started this when I was 60. So I looked at what I want to achieve or actually who I want to be when I'm 70. So I want to be able to say when I'm 70, I can easily get up and down off the floor and play with my grandkids. I could walk with no problem. I can go to the airport and those long hallways or stand in line, and I can put my suitcase in the overhead bin without help if I wanted to. Those are like the physical things, right? So I had like
Mhm.
body, mind, and spirit, and who I want to be when I'm 70. And then I reverse engineered it. You'll like that as a physics professor. I reverse engineered it. I'm like, okay, so what do I need to do now as a 60-year-old to make sure that 70-year-old Carmen is happy with 60-year-old Carmen?
That's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah, by looking at what you want instead of what you don't want, you're putting
mhm.
energy into what you want and what you fear. And I have a Substack. I don't know if I mentioned the Substack that talk about these different principles.
Hmm.
And it really is having it's not, it's a lot easier to look at what you don't want because it's there than
Mhm.
what you do want, right?
Mhm.
Like defining that 70-year thing is, not necessarily easy. Oh, you'll appreciate this one. I always um so I got married at 32 for the first time ever, and my husband was 39, and he lived in Australia and I lived in Austin, Texas when we met.
Uh,
We met in the LA airport. So that's pretty
oh.
weird in itself. I wrote down a list of 100 characteristics of my ideal mate. 100 characteristics of my ideal mate in like September, and then I forgot about it. I mean, I set it aside, and I met him in January. And it was really interesting. I wrote things down like international-ish. Well, he was from Wales and lived in Australia. And as I say, if you care about something like hair color, you would write it down. If you don't, you won't.
Mhm.
So you define things to the best you can. And it's like saying, I want to go, I want to go that particular place, or just head north. Like either way is going to get you moving. So I
Mhm.
wrote these characteristics down, and I forgot to write local. He's in Australia, but yeah, we were married for 32 years. He passed away, but we were married for 32 years after that. So
Wow. And
long distance relationship.
oh, the whole time? Or did
No, no,
you
no,
move to
no, 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 no.
Australia or he moved here or
Yeah, I moved there for 4 years, and then he moved over here for the rest of
yeah.
the time. Yeah,
Yeah. I have heard that when you write down specifics, you don't even have to think about it every day or look at it all the time. And how many people have talked about vision boards and it's in their closet and then they looked at him like, oh my gosh, that's the house I have now, or that's
yeah.
whatever
You're
it might
telling the
be.
universe this is what you want. This
Uh-huh.
this is the location I'm in, and this is what I want here. Okay, we're over here.
Yeah.
But it also, I do assert that, like people say I make New Year's resolutions and they never work. Well, don't leave them just in your drawer. Take them
Mhm.
out and look at them so they can have a force on you, because
Yes.
a force is in the interaction of two objects. So if they're sitting there in the drawer, they're not necessarily having any impact on you. So take them out and
Right.
read them, periodically. And like you have with your goals, if you think about it again, it makes you refocus. Oh yeah, then I need to be doing something for exercise or for whatever
Yeah.
to make sure that I'm moving in that direction.
Yeah, I had that talk with myself recently because it's been just very busy work time and I'm debating like what to do next and what can that look like and what do I want? That question like what do I really want? And I read a post of a friend of mine and she said, "What do you want to leave behind as we
Mm.
enter 2026?" I realized as I am in the midst of a lot of busy time or active time or even when I'm not physically as active I'm thinking more I neglected my self-care or taking care of myself. I'm like, oh, 70-year-old Carmen is not going to be happy with 66-year-old Carmen right now. This was not a good year for that. And then I like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to change that because I made a promise to myself and I don't want to look back and say, I could have changed that. I could.
Well, there's nothing more important than health.
Hmm.
Absolutely nothing. Without health, you can't do all the things you want to do.
But, I was a nurse 40 years, so
Oh,
I
that's right.
was around people at their worst time as well as their best, but mostly at their worst times. And I thought, what can I learn from that? Even as a young, I mean, I was almost 16, my first job as a nurse's aide, and I paid attention.
Well, and that's the another principle of physics is inertia. And inertia is you'll keep going at the same speed in the same direction unless something changes it, basically.
Mhm.
So getting a habit of, I don't know about you, but if I try to do something that I need to do, but I don't have it on a regular schedule or whatever, it's like, I'm
Yes.
terrible about watering plants. I still need to do better at that. Oh my gosh. But even just saying, I'm going to at least think about doing laundry on the weekend, or I'm going to think about doing this cleaning thing on the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, even if you
Yeah.
don't do it, like, that's the time I'm going to think about it or do
Right.
it, right? Over the inertia of,
Mhm.
so going to the gym, it's going to be on this day every week, not should I go for exercise today or not, or,
Yeah,
it's,
it's not on my
it's,
schedules. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's where, and I love that you've got your game and along the lines of app type things. I have apps that when I document, now I can take a picture of what I eat and it tells me, nutritional value and such. And when I document my movement and I can look at, a graph or where I'm at today, and that that is my
data.
message and that will create some inertia for me because that's the overachiever in me. And I'll look at that and go, oh no, that's not going to do it. And I realized this when I stopped using my app that I stopped keeping with my schedule. And,
Right, right.
it's like, no, I am a person who uh, gets regular exercise, like who moves my
It's
body
an
every
identity.
day and touches.
Yeah. It's just that, recognizing that those are things that, you do. And then again, like, what's the physics of it? It's you want to overcome inertia, which is like saying being stuck in a rut, or creating habits that are good. And
Yeah.
then momentum is like to keep moving forward. And I had somebody, it was funny. One woman who took a class with me, she was so excited. She said, I was swimming and there was a guy in the next lane. And he said, it takes a lot of energy to change from going in this direction and then going back in the other direction. And I said, that's because of momentum. And I knew what I meant. It was so funny. She was so
Yeah.
thrilled.
You have such a great way of explaining it that is like, oh yeah, of course. Of course. I have loved this. I know we can talk a lot longer. I think I want to ask a question. Now we're talking about schooling and things, and just to wrap it up, because I'm curious, has there been a teacher in your life, or I would say what teacher, whether in school or not, right? What teacher or person who's had the most major impact for you?
There's been several, but the one related to this is I went to an all girls high school, and the first week they had us take a test on math to see what our proficiency was. And then five of us got to take math independent study. We would study and take a test, study and take a test. So I took 5.5 years of math in 4 years. So
Wow.
that teacher, that the physics teacher and the math teacher, Miss Donovan and Miss Philbin, were both just really supportive of, because at the time, really, I mean, it wasn't as common for women to like math and science, and I always loved math and science. So
Mhm.
they were probably the ones that made the biggest difference in my life. Although there were other ones anyway.
Yeah.
Because I write, I had a teacher that said, encouraged me to write as well. So I was lucky with lots of really good teachers at that school.
Yeah.
I loved being in an all girls school because you didn't have that
Yeah.
weird dynamic, where there's been studies, like, that more questions are asked of, and I'm conscious of that, to make sure to always pay attention to the women and men in a class or whatever, because there is that social, and this is environmental stress, by the way,
Mhm.
is the anyway that comes from the surroundings.
Right.
But it is something that has changed, but not completely. I mean,
Mhm.
it's definitely still there, and we just have to be willing to push forward more while keeping this balance where it's not being too pushy, right? And
Mhm.
it's a hard balance.
It is. It is. It wasn't until later in life that I even looked at it as like, oh yeah, I certainly made myself small because it's kind of a boys' world in certain classes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure nobody said to do that. It was just the way it was.
Yeah. I
Very,
remember being a younger kid, I don't know how old, probably grade school, I don't know, but I was mad that I was a girl because it was a boys' world.
yeah.
I was really like,
You knew it
this
even back.
sucks.
You were just brilliant, Susan. I never even caught on to stuff like that till I was a little bit older.
Oh,
I'm like, huh, there's some
yeah.
inequalities here. Why is that? I'm like, it's because
Yeah.
you're a girl. That's why. I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
it doesn't work for me anymore.
But I always liked math and science. My mom would tell the story of when I was before, pre-K. They didn't even have pre-K back then, but I was playing with the peas on my plate, going 3 sets of 2 are 6 and 2 sets of 3 are 6. I guess I was lucky that she didn't get mad at me for playing with my food. She,
That's right.
I mean, and it really does make a big difference. Is that she was
Mhm.
really supportive of my love of math and science. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, when we stop and think about the people, I mean, I asked you for a teacher, but there are so many, right? So many
Yeah,
influences. And if it had gone just a different way, it would have changed everything.
that's right.
Hmm.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So as we close, now this is the art of a meaningful life. You have had so many awesome things to say that are just like touching my heart. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
good.
I can take that. I can use that. I love it. And I just want to go and we're going to have the links also to your Substack and to your games. I'll be reading too because I'm so interested. And is there any one thing to close that you have to offer our listeners about the art of a meaningful life?
Well, it was a big deal for me to leave IBM and follow my path. I mean, that was a really hard thing to do, but I would say, and it's taken me a long time to finally get the game and get developers and do all those kinds of things. And so my advice would be to follow the guidance that you get, to do what you're meant to do. There is a reason. Like you say, not many people recognize this kind of distinction. And I'm always like, well, of course everybody already knows this, but and so it stopped me from doing that. So it's just trusting that what you are lit up about is what you're supposed to do. And there will be people who are also lit up about it.
Love that. Susan, thank you so much. This has just been a wonderful conversation.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful
Yeah. And I will give you
conversation.
the information about the power. I didn't even say anything about it. The power hour is a 1 hour, as we say, the most efficiently effective financial education you'll ever get. If you can't get return on 1 hour and a nominal fee, you're trying not to. So it is really an impactful hour session as an introductory thing for the Mentomorph Money game.
That's amazing. I'm just so grateful for that. And we will have links to that. And boy, I think with that, I need to do some pondering. It was a lot to think about, and I appreciate
Good.
that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
And
thank you for the opportunity.
of course. And I would say stay tuned for next week's episode. But one of us, that would be me, is getting a little tired of editing videos and I'm slow. It might be 2 weeks. Might be one, might be two. That's one of the things I'm going to pass on and leave behind for 2026, by the way, is I love talking and podcasting. I don't love the video. I don't like the editing, that detail part. So I'm going to get some help with that so I can do what I love.
Way to go.
There you go. All right. And we'll see you in a week or two. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.